Welcome to Spurs Focus, your go-to spot for daily Tottenham news, transfers, and match updates. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button now. Let's dive into today's top story. Tottenham Hotspur have reportedly agreed a deal to sign RB Leipzig midfielder Xavi Simons. Chelsea have been at the forefront of the chase for Simons throughout the summer, with Stamford Bridge being the Dutch international's preferred choice. However, with no transfer deal in place, Spurs have now entered the competition for his signature. After missing out on Morgan Gibbs-White and Eberechi Eze, Spurs have seemingly shifted their focus to Simons. The attacking midfielder has been given permission to leave Leipzig's training base and travel to England for discussions with Premier League clubs to settle his future ahead of Monday's transfer deadline. Since his appointment in June, Spurs head coach Thomas Frank has been searching for a new number 10, with injuries to James Maddison and Dejan Kulusevski, making a signing increasingly urgent, and journalist Fabrizio Romano, who specialises in transfers, has claimed that Spurs have agreed a €60 million, 51 million deal for Simons. Exclusive. Tottenham agree €60 million fee with RB Leipzig for Xavi Simons. Official bid accepted. Green light after Tottenham. Hotspur sent formal bid following players' encouragement, he said on X, Twitter. Spurs want deal done today also on player-side medical in the next hours. Here we go. Expected soon. Simons racked up 11 goals and 8 assists in 33 appearances last season for Leipzig, despite missing 2 months in the middle of the season with an ankle injury. When he returned to the side, he registered 14 goal involvements in 18 games in the Bundesliga. Tottenham have a good relationship with the German club, and Simons ticks plenty of boxes for Frank, in that he can play as a number 10 and also on the left wing. Thomas Frank will be eyeing up a third successive Premier League win when Tottenham return to action on Saturday. Fresh from beating Burnley and Manchester City in their opening 2 fixtures, Spurs take on Bournemouth in N17 this weekend. A point against the Cherries would be enough to take the Lilywhites to the summit of the Premier League table, as Arsenal and Liverpool, who also both have a 100% record this season, take on each other at Anfield on Sunday afternoon. Frank will be targeting all 3 points though, as his team look to carry on their impressive start to the campaign. Unfortunately, it is Tottenham's last game before domestic action goes on pause for the first international break of the season. So could Frank switch things up in regards to his Spurs team this weekend? Our Football.London writers have made their team selections below. Frank has continually surprised us so far, with little tweaks and changes in personnel, and we all expected him to play a certain way at Manchester City with a back 5, and instead he went with a back 4, as his team nailed the game plan perfectly at the Etihad Stadium. With that in mind, you could suggest that he might bring in Wilson Odobert to add something different, or Lucas Bergvall in the number 10 role, but then how do you justify dropping Paqueta Sarr, who was brilliant against City, or Brennan Johnson, who has scored in back-to-back games? There could be a temptation to give Dominic Solanke his first start of the season up front, but Richarlison has been excellent so far this season. Destiny Udogie has also been back in training for a week now, but Jed Spence has done more than enough to keep his place at left-back. The games will come thick and fast after the international break, and everyone will be getting minutes and chances to impress. So for this weekend, Frank can go with an unchanged winning lineup. Gold's team: Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van de Ven, Spence, Palhinha, Bentancur, Kudus, Sarr, Johnson, Richarlison. There's no reason for Thomas Frank to change his Tottenham team that beat Manchester City last weekend, as they've had a full week to prepare for the Bournemouth match. However, the Dane may still choose to alternate in a couple of positions. Destiny Udogie could be back in the squad this weekend, but it will come too soon for him to start. That means Jed Spence continues at left back, and Udogie may get an opportunity to get minutes in the tank towards the end of the encounter. Dominic Solanke will have to contend with a place on the bench once again, due to Richarlison's excellent form. The Brazilian will continue to lead the line and have support from Mohamed Kudus, Paqueta Sarr, and Brennan Johnson behind him. Guests team: Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van de Ven, Spence, Palhinha, Bentancur, Kudus, Sarr, Johnson, Richarlison. Tottenham's flying start under Thomas Frank has lifted spirits in North London, but with injuries hitting key playmakers, James Maddison and Dejan Kulusevski, the search for a creative number 10 is now critical. Having missed out on Ebereki Eze and Morgan Gibbs-White, Spurs have just 5 days left to Tottenham, have 5 days to complete their summer transfer business, to hand new boss Thomas Frank the best possible squad to compete at the top of the Premier League. Spurs have started the season well, one of only 3 teams in the Premier League to have a 100% record from their opening 3 matches. After beating Burnley 3-0 on the opening day of the season at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Frank's side followed that up with an impressive 2-0 victory at the Etihad Stadium, beating Manchester City. They are one of only 2 sides in the league not to have conceded a goal yet this season. Keeping Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero fit will be key to that defensive solidity continuing. While Frank does want to sign another centre-back, a number 10's more important, given injuries to Dejan Kulusevski and James Maddison. Spurs have failed with moves for both Morgan Gibbs-White and Ebereki Eze this summer already, and need to get their plans in place to sign an alternative before the window shuts on Monday, September 1st. Premier League payer would be ideal, given last summer's spend on young talent, and here Football.London takes a look at who they could sign from other Premier League sides as experienced options. Spurs are unlikely to do business with their North London rivals for anyone, let alone the player in their number 10 role, club captain Martin Odegaard. Morgan Rogers is a name that has been linked with Spurs, although Football London understands there is no interest in the Villa man at this stage. Emiliano Buendia wears the number 10 shirt, but struggles to get into Villa's team, let alone Spurs. Marcus Tavernier can play in there for the Cherries, while David Brooks wears the number 10 shirt for the South Coast club. It's unlikely Spurs would be interested in either pair to fill the void. Could Frank return to his old club to swoop for a player? Mikkel Damsgaard is the man in possession of the number 10 role at the GTEC Community Stadium and came on leaps and bounds under Frank in West London. Matt O'Reilly is the one who has started the season as the Seagulls number 10. He only joined the club from Celtic last summer and has not played an awful lot following an injury last season, and has also been linked with a move to Serie A this year. The Clarets have a number of options in the middle of the park, with Hannibal Mejbri able to play in the 10 or out wide. Then there's Josh Cullen and Josh Laurent too. It would be a surprise to see Spurs go after any of them though. Cole Palmer, anyone? Like that's ever going to happen. The Englishman has done wonders at Stamford Bridge so far and will not be sold to Tottenham. Spurs wanted Eze and failed to get him. Palace are now in the market for a replacement, and Selhurst Park is not the place to go for Spurs to find a number 10 now. The Toffees have just signed Jack Grealish on loan from Manchester City to pay this very role. The fact Spurs, who have long been linked with a move for Grealish, were not involved in any talks and speaks volumes. Emile Smith-Rowe is the preferred option for Fulham in the number 10 position when he is not injured. His Arsenal connection makes a move unlikely, and he may not have the consistency to be right for the role anyway. The Whites haven't really played with a 10 as such in their opening 2 fixtures, and it's hard to see Tottenham being interested in the likes of Ilya Gruev, Jack Harrison or Ao Tanaka. Florian Wirtz has been signed this summer to fulfill this role for the Reds, but if you look further into the squad, there is an option for Spurs in Harvey Elliott. Has played in the number 10 for England under-21s and shone during the European Championships this summer. Rayan Cherki has been handed the number 10 shirt and scored on his debut against Wolves on the opening day of the season. It can be hard to see who exactly plays in the 10th position under Pep Guardiola. But there is one player who sits on the bench, a lot who would definitely be of interest, that is hugely out of Spurs' reach: Phil Foden. It would be a surprise approach for sure, but given what Spurs need, it looks like they're going for the wrong City star in Savinho. Tottenham wanted to sign Bruno Fernandes when he was at Sporting, but could not get the deal done. Away from the Portuguese though, there is Kobbie Mainoo. His best position is in the 8, but he wants out of United, and he is hugely talented. Of that there is no doubt. Anthony Gordon has been playing up front in the absence of Alexander Isak, but he would be the ideal name for the Magpies in the no 10. And given Liverpool have been linked with him, it would not be a shock to see Spurs make a move. it would be a surprise for Newcastle to sanction it. However, the summer window is about to explode. Tottenham have stormed into the race for Xavi Simons despite Chelsea already pushing talks, while Fabrizio Romano reveals fresh Spurs calls on Lucas Paqueta. Could Thomas Frank's side hijack their rivals and land 2 late game changers before deadline day? Tottenham have entered the race to sign Xavi Simons from RB Leipzig, Football.London understands, with Chelsea considering a move for Barcelona's Fermin Lopez. Spurs lost out on Eberechi Eze to Arsenal recently and are now exploring alternatives to the England international. Simons has emerged as an option, insiders close to the Dutchman have confirmed. Despite Chelsea having been in talks with Leipzig for over a month at this stage, Simons has a broad agreement on personal terms over a move to Stamford Bridge. However, there has been no breakthrough between Chelsea and Leipzig yet. With Tottenham now in the race, Chelsea have been biding their time in negotiations as the West London club look to offload Nicholas Jackson or Christopher Nkunku before making an official offer. Leipzig, though, have options with Simons very much in demand this summer. Meanwhile, Chelsea are considering their options in the number 10 position, with Football.London reporting on Tuesday that the Blues have expressed an initial interest in Lopez from Barcelona. Chelsea have held talks with the 22-year-old Spaniard's representatives to gauge whether he could be persuaded to make the move to Stamford Bridge. Alejandro Garnacho, too, remains a target for Chelsea in the final 5 days of the summer transfer window. The Blues are confident they can strike a deal with Manchester United to sign the 21-year-old winger, who has his heart set on joining the world champions. Bayern Munich approached Garnacho's entourage over a loan move to the Allianz Arena, but the Argentine's preference has always been Chelsea, so said offer was quickly turned down. Tottenham, meanwhile, are looking to add a number 10, winger with a central defender, also of interest before the window closes on Monday. Spurs are keen on in Manchester City's Savinho, while the North Londoners have also been linked with the likes of Magnus Akliush, Lucas Paqueta and Nico Paz. Tottenham will be actively pursuing 2 new signings in the final week of the summer transfer window. Thomas Frank has only been able to welcome 1 new and marquee addition in Mohamed Kudus, with Joao Palhinha joining on loan, Mathys Tel returning on a permanent basis, and Kota Takai very much signed for the future. Attempts to further bolster his squad have been made, and rather publicly at that, with failed moves for Morgan Gibbs-White and Eberechi Eze clouding what has been an excellent start to the Premier League season by Spurs. After beating newly promoted Burnley on the opening day, Frank's men then put in a terrific performance to beat Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. A dream scenario would have been Tottenham leaving with more than just the 3 points. As City's wide forward, Savinho is being formally targeted by the Lilywhites. A switch to North London is currently being blocked, however, and it remains to be seen if he will be allowed to make the move. Despite Pape Sarr's blistering start to the season, a new number 10 is also required with West Ham United's Lucas Paqueta, the latest name to emerge of interest. With all of that being said, Football London has rounded up all the latest updates on the duo as Tottenham aim to strike late in the summer window. According to Fabrizio Romano, Tottenham have made some fresh calls to understand the situation surrounding Paqueta. West Ham may be reluctant to do business with rivals again, but Paqueta could force through a move. Following on from links arriving, very old photos emerged of the Brazil international wearing a Spurs shirt. Paqueta scored his 2nd goal of the season in West Ham's 3-2 Carabao Cup defeat to Wolves at Molineux on Tuesday night. After celebrating with his teammates, Paqueta passionately roared into the away end while asking for more noise. Just 4 days earlier, he netted a superb strike in the 5-1 defeat to Chelsea, with replays showing him firmly tapping the West Ham badge on his shirt. Based on that, and even with West Ham's current struggles, it looks unlikely he would actively push for a move.